Good morning. Hope you're having a great start to your day. So, believe it or not, this week I learned about something called virtue signaling, which I probably knew about, but not by that term. And what I read in Wikipedia after I was taught about it was that virtue signaling is when you post, especially on social media, and let people know about your moral values and standings, to show them where you stand morally in the good, and that you have the values they want and desire. One of the most famous virtue signaling that happened was back when President Obama was president, and they captured a bunch of girls in Boko Haram. They kidnapped over 200 girls from a school and wanted to kill them. And famously, Michelle Obama took a postcard or a cardboard paper that she held in her hand, and she put it onto Twitter, which it said, #Bring back our girls. And that's a virtue signaling. What does virtue signaling mean? It means when you let your moral values be known without really doing anything about it. It's a hashtag. In fact, I Googled it and I saw that the guy who claims that he invented the term virtue signaling is a British news guy, a British reporter or something like that. His name is James Bartholomew. I can't even pronounce his name. The point is that when he invented virtue signaling, he termed it as empty boasting. He said it used to be that you had to do something to let people know about what your moral values are. You had to take action. You had to make sacrifice. And today, you have virtue signaling. You just get onto Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it may be, and you say, #I believe in this, or I think this, and you've done it all. And the question is that the society we're becoming? Virtue signaling. Are we a people that think that we accomplish things through hashtags instead of possibly through taking action? But maybe it's a good thing. Ironically, it's interesting because this week's Torah portion, Shabbat, we begin the new book of Numbers, Bamidbar. Bamidbar means in the desert. Numbers is not the desert. Why is it called Numbers? And the reason is because Bamidbar also has another name. The name is called Pikudim, which means to count. And the reason is because in the beginning of Bamidbar and throughout the book of Numbers, God counts the Jewish people multiple times to show how important they are and how much they mean to him, especially after there was a pandemic and they lost many numbers. But the word pikudim and lifkod, to count, has a dual meaning. It also means lifkod, to remember. As we say in biblical terms in Genesis, Vashem pakad Sarah. God remembered Sarah and he gave her a child. Whereas we say in the story of Jonathan and King David, when Jonathan says to King David, Machar Chodesh, tomorrow's Rosh Chodesh, v'nifkadata, you will be remembered because your place will be empty. So the question is, what's this dual meaning? Now we know that when you want to say remember in Hebrew, you usually use another term, which is called zachor, to remember. So why do we have a word lifkod, to count, meaning to remember? Now obviously the simple meaning is because when you count, it means you're remembering somebody. But what's the difference between zachor and between lifkod, to remember? And the answer is a very beautiful one, and I think is very important when we think about virtue signaling. You see, zachor means to remember something in the distance. To remember something that I'm just remembering without taking any action. It's like virtue signaling. I remember something that happened, well, what am I doing about it? Not necessarily anything. Lifkod means to remember and to count. To remember with a charge. To remember with a mission. To remember and to say something because I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do something about it. It's like a hashtag with action. It's interesting because in Hebrew, and in Israel, you have a mifaked. A mifaked is a general. We have a pikud. A pikud is a charge that the general gives the soldiers. And why is the same word as remembering and counting meant to give a charge? Because when you call your soldiers and you count them to a charge, it's not just, you're not counting them, you're not just remembering them, but you're telling them, hey, let's get to action. And maybe, just maybe, what the Torah is telling us with this message of Bamidbar and Pikudim, that the same word of remembering is the word of counting. The Torah is telling us that in the Jewish way we see things, it's not enough to be a hashtag virtue signaling person. That's great. It's great to show you have moral values, but empty boasting, as the press guy James termed it, is not going to get you anywhere. You need to take action. You need to be able to have the courage to do something about it. You need to be able to have pikudim, lifkod. You need a pikud. You need a charge. God wants us to be better, to act better, to change the way we and the world acts in a positive way. Not just to put a hashtag or to say prayers and thoughts, but to do something about it. That's the real message of Judaism. And that's the real message of Shavuot. When God gave the Jewish people the Torah, the message was that we can change things. Till Matan Torah, as I spoke the other day, we didn't have the power to impact the material, to impact the world. But when God gave us the Torah, He gave us that power to actually change the world through action and not through virtue signaling hashtags. So God bless you. Hashtag Happy Shavuot. Tomorrow is Friday, Shabbos. We have 2 days of Shavuot. We have so many celebrations going on. Don't just like it, but join it, engage in it, and hopefully we can make a difference in this world.